A lot of people get stuck before they even upload their first Etsy listing. Not because they can't design or know how to set up their shop, but because they can't decide what to sell or who to sell to. You'll often see advice that goes in completely opposite directions. Some say you need to niche down to something hyper-specific, like pet memorial prints for dog owners who've just lost their golden retriever. Others say they just upload whatever they want, like digital wall art, t-shirts, templates, and somehow it all works out. So, which one is actually right? The answer depends on how your shop is structured, and understanding the difference between your product, your target market, and your niche makes the decision a lot easier. Let's break that down first because a lot of people get them mixed up, and that's where most of the confusion comes from. Of course, first you have your product, which is obviously what you're selling, like printables, wall art, digital planners, shirts. Then there's your category, which is the general area of your product, like weddings, business, education, productivity. Then you have your target market. This is who you're selling to, like maybe teachers, small business owners, mothers, students, etc. And then finally, your niche is what happens when all those three overlap. It's the sweet spot that connects what you sell, the category it belongs to, and who it's for. For example, if you sell printable planners for teachers, your product is planner, your category is education, and your target market is teachers. And your niche is teacher planners. Simple, right? But here's where it gets tricky. There are different ways to approach your shop depending on how much you want to specialize. And the approach you choose will completely change how your shop grows over time. The first way is to focus on one specific product type, like digital wall art, shirts, or social media posts. This approach is common because it's pretty straightforward. You pick one kind of product and then become really good at making it. The biggest advantage here is simplicity. You only need to master one system, like one kind of file, one kind of mockup, and one workflow. If you're selling digital prints, for example, you can easily reuse templates and just change colors, codes, or designs to make new listings. If you're doing print-on-demand products, you can use the same setup with your SEO, pricing, shipping, and just upload the designs. This makes scaling much faster because everything stays consistent. Once you've figured out your process, you can batch create dozens of products without reinventing the wheel every time. It also gives your shop a cohesive look. If someone likes one of your designs, chances are they might like some others because your mockups follow the same aesthetic. But there are downsides. When you build your shop entirely around one product type, you're putting all your eggs in one basket. If the market for that product type becomes oversaturated or trends shift, your traffic can drop dramatically. For example, digital self-care planners were massive for a while, but that trend cooled off. A lot of people started competing on price and started racing to the bottom, and some new shops struggled to gain some momentum. Another challenge is standing out. If you're one of thousands of wall art shops, you need to compete purely on design and keywords. That can be tough if your products don't have a distinct angle or emotional hook. And finally, it can get repetitive. Making similar products over and over might start to feel like factory work than creative expression. Some sellers burn out quickly when they realize that they're making the same thing in 1,000 different ways. So focusing on a single product type can be great for building efficiency and learning SEO, but it can also box you in creatively and make it harder to adapt later. The next approach is going deep into a very specific niche. Instead of selling general printable planners, you might sell fitness planners for moms. Instead of just wall art, maybe it's boho nursery prints for baby girls. The benefit of this approach is clarity, both for Etsy's algorithm and for your customers. When someone lands on your shop, they immediately know who it's for and what to expect. That instant recognition builds trust because shoppers feel like they don't have to dig through unrelated listings to find what they need. Etsy also tends to reward clear, consistent shops. So when your titles, tags, and listings are all centered around one topic, Etsy's system gets a stronger signal about what your shop represents. And that helps your product show up in front of the right audience later. Another plus is that it's easier to cross-sell and upsell. If someone buys a wedding invitation template, you can offer matching menu cards, place cards, and signages. You're creating a natural ecosystem of related products that appeal to the same person. But of course, there's a trade-off. When you go super specific, your growth potential becomes limited. Sure, the competition might be less, but the smaller your niche, the smaller your audience. If your entire shop is built around planners for real estate agents, there's a hard ceiling on how many people will ever search for that, right? And if your niche loses relevance, maybe trends change, or the audience's taste evolves, you might find yourself stuck. It's not easy to pivot when your whole brand identity revolves around one hyper-specific idea, like a shop that becomes known for Christian wall art. Like, you can't easily transition into modern business templates without confusing both Etsy and your existing customers. The other issue is variety. Being locked into one narrow lane can start to get restrictive. You might have tons of creative ideas, but if they don't fit your niche, you might feel like you can't make them. That's why niching down can be powerful if you value direction and clarity, but risky if you like to experiment and try new things. The third approach is to center your shop around the type of person instead of a product or a niche. This is my personal favorite way to build a shop because it gives you room to evolve. For example, instead of saying I sell digital planners, you could say I make tools that help teachers stay organized. Or instead of I sell t-shirts, you could think of it as I make gifts for business owners. When you build around the target market, you're defining your audience first and then creating different kinds of products that serve them. And that opens the door to mixing digital products and print-on-demand items as long as they make sense for that group. One reason that this works so well is because of flexibility. If your audience is teachers, you can sell classroom posters, editable templates, digital planners, and even mugs that are personalized with their subject specialty or the grade level that they teach. Everything connects because it's all made for the same person. This approach also gives you long-term growth potential. Once you understand your audience deeply, you can build a real brand around them. You could start an email list, expand your own website, or even release digital bundles or online courses later on. It's a setup that grows with you. But it's not the easiest path in the beginning. You need to understand your audience's pain points, preferences, and behaviors, and that takes time, research, and a bit of trial and error. Your shop might also look inconsistent at first if you're experimenting with different product types. That's totally fine, but making new listing images whenever you release a new product type does consume a bit more time. Also, since you're creating different types of products for the same group of people, not everything will hit right away. Some designs will connect instantly, but others might fall flat. And it can take a bit of testing to understand what your audience actually values or wants to spend money on. It's less about technical challenges and more about patience. You're building a deeper understanding of your customers, and that process might take a while. Still, once you figure out who your customer is and how to serve them, the approach definitely gives you the most freedom to adapt and grow over time. So, which approach is best? Well, each of these strategies can work, but the way you use them depends on where you are in your journey. A good way to start is by picking a niche, something specific enough to help you stand out, but not so narrow that you feel boxed in. This gives you a clear starting point and helps you learn what kinds of products get attention. Once you start getting some traction and you understand who's buying from you, you can go one of two directions. You can expand by adding similar product types that fit the same theme, like turning a printable planner shop into a full range of productivity tools. Or you can keep your focus on the same audience and offer them new types of products that serve different needs. Over time, that's how a simple niche shop can evolve into a real brand. You're no longer just selling products. You're serving a specific group of people. And that's what gives your shop long-term growth and flexibility. At the end of the day, your niche isn't a lifelong commitment. It's just a starting point. Something to get you moving. You'll figure things out as you go, and it's completely normal to pivot once you start seeing things that work and what doesn't work. Because what really matters isn't just the niche itself, but how you execute. That includes how you present your products, how your designs connect to your customers emotionally, and how clearly you communicate with your audience. Because even the most perfect niche won't get you sales if your listings don't catch attention or make people feel something. So instead of chasing the perfect niche, focus on taking action. Get your products out there, see how people respond, and let that feedback guide your next move. If you want to go a little deeper into this, I actually break down the simple 3-step strategy that helped me reach over 1,800 sales in a year, and you can watch that video next. But if you found this helpful, please boop that like button. It really helps me a lot. And consider subscribing if you haven't yet. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.